Welcome to the Stargate Fund podcast called The Foundation. Your host is Joseph Conrad, founder of the Stargate Fund, which is a non-profit organization focused on support and development forward-thinking projects that would benefit future generations in the next 1,000 years. The Foundation podcast is where we talk with tech founders, investors and scientists about long-term thinking, impact investing and crazy ideas to overcome the pathological short-termism of the modern world.
Lisa, welcome to the Foundation podcast. It's nice to have here some young minds so far achieved so much. And first and usual question, what is your source of dedication to the space?
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to this Foundation podcast. It's a great pleasure. I'm super happy to be here, and thank you for your question. So, what is the source? Was that a question of my dedication to space? Okay, so at the very beginning, I was kind of interested by everything that happens in this science world. And I was super passionate by all the things like technical and like just wanted to go a little bit more beyond the things and to know how things work and how come we have things that we don't know anything about and lots of mysteries in the universe. And this is sort of this mysterious flair that space has. It was something that just like attracted my attention from the beginning. So one of the most prominent examples and actually pushes for me to be interested about space even more was CERN. So I started to study in France like 5 years ago, and CERN is really not so far from here. And I was so fascinated that we have this super mysterious scientific organization. They're like, oh, what the hell? They're doing so amazing things. They have like incredible scientific equipment there, and they're trying to find an answer. Like, what are we doing in this universe, and from where life started is just incredible. And this is sort of that was the first seed of me being interested in space. But unfortunately, when I just started studying, I studied law. We didn't have any of the courses basically speaking about space. So as a lawyer, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm just continuing my law studies. But my life wasn't even like really crossing with space law until my Erasmus year in Finland, when I had the chance to discover a space law course. And I'm like, yes, that's my moment. I need to participate in this one. That was very famous and known for all the space lawyers competition, which was Manfred Lach's space law competition. And I'm like, and I decided to participate in this one. And this was the start of like a very serious space-related studies that I started a bunch of years ago in Finland. And this moment, I was just blown up by the things that actually the space law exists, and that I had a chance to discover it and in the country that I wasn't expecting at all. I wasn't even thinking that in Finland I can do this. And this is how everything started. So we participated in that competition and we were preparing for it the whole year. So I was just so inspired and dedicated to this moot court competition that I decided I want to stay in space. I want to continue my career with space.
But also you started from United Nations model. I think you participated like a student in Ukraine.
Okay, so in Ukraine, I wasn't really participating in a lot of projects because I was studying only 1 year. And after this, I wanted to be a translator at the beginning. So I wasn't really moving in a lot of participating in a lot of events there. I participated mainly in France and during my Erasmus year. And yes, that was United Nations sort of simulation of the discussion that people have in the United Nations. So I was in the Human Rights Committee, and this one happened in Sweden. So it wasn't really connected to space. We were just discussing different. Actually, one of the topics was like humanitarian situation in Yemen or something like this, and I was representing Brazil there. So it's totally different experience, but it sort of gave me an overview of how people are discussing and how diplomats actually work in the UN and how hard it is to work and discuss with other countries. So now I really understand that, like, when you actually take a look at the UN resolution and you're like, oh, nothing is clear. Everything is so, I have no idea what is written there. Like, I have a feeling that these people were just discussing nothing during 2 weeks. But then you actually participate with other people and other students, and you see how hard it is to do a consensus on something and to decide and to have a common solution. You're like, oh yeah, now I understand the meaning of those papers, and they're actually a valuable thing that people are, even though it sounds general, but enormous work behind it.
You remind me how I first stepped into international policy in space. It was an article about how private space astronauts is not actually astronauts. And for example, if they land in some country officials is not responsible for them as a space representatives, but they just as citizens of another country and lack some kind of new space soul, don't you think?
Okay, so you mean the private astronauts? All of the astronauts, actually, if they will send from a specific country, if this country has signed the Outer Space Treaty, those people will be considered astronauts if they are in space.
No, okay, it's more like space tourists. Space tourists is not space astronauts, and they therefore just some citizens that go to space and return to Earth.
Yeah, so that is actually a big debate question. Because some of the ideas that were expressed like during this extensive law debates is that if this person actually was in, and the well-agreed criteria was that this person was in space. So like technically, if this person reaches space and comes back, this person is an astronaut. It's just that it's kind of a different kind of astronaut if you really think about it, because some people were really trained and selected for a long time and they're working there in the space station and stuff. But generally taking, if this person was in space, that this person is an astronaut. When it comes actually to the protection, when this person lands in a specific country, that will create new additional issues that we don't have for now in Outer Space Treaty. But I think they should be treated also as astronauts, and as an maybe probably that will a little bit change with the times. There will not be this concept of envoy of mankind as it was written in the Outer Space Treaty will be a little bit blurry and will become a little bit different. I just have a feeling that like with this constant like improvement that we have in space now with new space, that those tickets to space will become like cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And then the big question that will be, can we really tell that person who was just flying and being a space tourist can be on the same level than a person who was trained for years? And do they have equal protections? That is the thing that actually we need to decide on the international level, because if we will have this extensive space tourism and they could like land in different countries, so these countries basically should agree what should we do with those people then. But I have a feeling that they should be also treated as like they should receive basically the same help from local authorities from the place where they are landing. So that'll be actually one of the cool things to see how discussions are going on the international level. But just from a very human law perspective, I think that if a person is sort of I would not say even like this situation of distress, but situation that requires help, all the countries have, if for now not legal obligation, then moral obligation to go and save this person. So we will see how it goes, but I just have like very strong thoughts that those people should be protected on the same level. But also maybe companies that will send them to space will already like conclude basically agreements with some countries saying they will have their like small companies, and they will like figure it out how they will rescue those people after they land. So we'll see how it happens.
Tell me more about the debates you hear in your community, among your professional connections. How these fast emerging changes in technologies impact personal freedoms, maybe policies?
How this technology will impact personal freedoms? Well, if we're going to use more and more data, I mean, if we'll be sending more and more satellites to space, which will be able to monitor every aspect, not only like Google Maps, but at some point the question will be standing like, do those people actually, is that actually a human right to have access to this information? So, for example, we have this, if I really believe, if it's correct, is Article 10 of the Human Rights Convention, saying that, we have this freedom of information, that everyone has a right to access this information. So like, it will be, that's actually a very interesting issue, that is this our human right to know, to have access to all the information that satellites are gathering, for example, that if our home is sort of sensed from space, do we have a right to those pictures, and how do we take a look at them? That can be one of the things that might be actually influencing human, let's say, freedoms. It's more than even not freedoms, but like the rights that people have. Again, what would be interesting to see, what can be challenging. Yeah, I think that a lot of issues will also arise like with time, gradually, as we will have like more developed space technologies. Maybe some of them will be pretty interesting to see. If we develop this new space transportation, and then like a lot of new issues will arise. But we need to actually witness this and try and see how it will go first, and then to see how law can basically react. Because law in general can predict a lot of things, but also it sort of also actions as a response to something. So in this case, I mean, we will just like wait, what do we have, and we'll see if the law needs to intervene, because we cannot really predict everything.
Could you walk me through your experience in International Space University, and why actually it's important part of your life, and for example, why our listeners should apply to ISU?
Okay, so here I'll tell a very wonderful story of how I met ISU in my life. It started from the fact that I was very surprised that this university is actually in Strasbourg, because as I told before, I was studying in France, and I was studying in Strasbourg precisely, and I was super interested about space before. And I discovered ISU during, again, my year in Finland, because as part of our preparations, we were just told that, we need to go to a lot of different space events just to understand how space works. And so I was, the very second month after I started to study space law, there was an International Astronautical Congress in Bremen. And I was thinking, wow, this is so cool. This event is so unique and it happens only once a year. And plus, this year is in Europe. So every year it's like in a different country. And I'm so lucky to attend this one. I need to go there. So I went to this one, and there was like a lot of different booths with different space companies and universities and just people doing very cool space stuff. And one of those booths was actually International Space University. So I just approached people over there and asked, "Oh, guys, what are you doing? Where are you from?" And they told me that they are in Strasbourg. And this moment in my face, I think I just freezed for a second. Like, how come I was living in the city for like 3 years and I wasn't even realizing that that exists? And so I decided to, I was super inspired about this idea because I was actually in the city that I was living, and I was like planning to come back from after my studies in Finland. And I was incredibly inspired by everything they were just presenting me. I was just like blown up with all the things that they were presenting there. And I decided that I want to apply there and I was going to do this. So in a few months after, I actually decided to apply. I applied and I got accepted. I got a scholarship. So everything just went, I don't know, it was just like a dream. I wasn't really expecting to have anything. And I wasn't really, first of all, I applied for Space Masters. So ISU has different education programs, and Space Master is MSS, Master of Space Studies, is the longest one. It's like for 1 year, but you can even extend it with different modules, so it can go up to several years. And I wanted to do this one because I was in the first year of my master's, and like in France, you need to finish like 2 years of your master's to like be fully proficient, let's say just like finishing your higher education by 2 masters. So I was applying to this one. I wasn't accepted to this one. I was accepted to a summer program, which is SSP, Space Studies Program. So Space Studies Program is happening all summers, like every summer. And very nice thing is that every summer it's happening in a different country. So it was in Canada, it was in France, it was in China, it was there and there and there and everywhere in the world. And when I realized that year when I was applying, the Space Studies Program was again Strasbourg in the main campus. So I was like, wow, I think like all the laws that I've studied, the law of attraction, that it was. So I was just feeling that everything just tells me that I need to study in that place. So I wasn't accepted to masters, but I was accepted to like summer program, and I participated in this one, which was incredible experience for the summer. And after this, I think my life will never be the same. So that was something incredible. I started to study space from different perspectives. So before that, I was just studying space law, and it's some cases when you just study space law, it's really hard to realize, to see this like holistic picture, the whole picture of what space actually is, because most of the time the issues that we're dealing in space law, they were connected to space engineering or in space business or such things in which I wasn't really well proficient in. Like during the moot court competition, we were talking about launching services agreement, and we're like, oh, okay, that's nice, but like how do rockets work? I don't really know. So I was like, oh yeah, I really need to know some of the tech inside, how actually this industry works. Like you cannot really be a super great lawyer and great expert if you are a space lawyer if you don't really know how this industry is organized and how to basically rockets fly and who is in this business and who is doing what and what is the difference between different rockets and different countries and what they are doing. So that was really a huge discovery for me that I can study space from different angles. So during this Space Studies program, it's organized and like 3 different modules. So the first module is just core lectures, and those are structured by departments. So we had 6 departments, we were talking about space business and management, with space law, space engineering, space applications, space humanities. So all of those, like from really different perspectives and angles. And that was something incredible. I mean, the people who were coming to the university were actually working in these sectors for years. They were experts. For example, space sciences department, we have Jim Green, actually chief scientist from NASA. And when you have those people coming to your lectures, we just like specifically invited from the US coming to Strasbourg to give this lecture, you're just like, oh my God, I cannot believe anything. And every lecture is like just mind blowing like this, with people that you were like, wow, I can only see this person or like online, but this person is actually like live here. So it was so much inspiration every day for every day of the lectures, and not only like purely space, but all the other disciplines. So after this core lecture series, when we were already insanely inspired about space, we started to develop this knowledge and go more deeply, because the second part was elective workshops. So we could choose the workshops, and those are a little bit longer than lectures. It's like basically 4 hours when we have experts and we are doing a workshop about like some specific things. So one of the workshops was, for example, assembling your own satellites. So we had people coming from like Open Cosmos, and we were actually seeing and taking a look, how can we do a satellite? And we assembled our satellite. That was so cool. Like for me, a lawyer, just looking at the paper and the word satellite, you really have no idea what kind of thing that is. But actually, when you try and like with your own hands to assemble it and then take a look at it, and we actually managed even to like take a picture from our satellite and like take a picture of us. And we're like, wow, this thing can take pictures. And I just assembled it half an hour ago. That was just cool. And those workshops are basically like this. You can choose a discipline and really master it. One of the also elective workshops was on microgravity and how human bodies reacting to microgravity, how, for example, were cats reacting to microgravity. So when you see this videos on YouTube on cats floating in space, that's one thing. But when you actually have a person doing extensive research on this for years, and this person actually tells you how exactly that was working, this is something. So those were workshops. And the third part is the most challenging. And because of this part, everyone just calls the International Space University International Sleepless University, because that's a team project. So overall, this program had more than 120 participants from all over the world, from different countries, from different backgrounds, different age, like different ages. And they were all working on their team project. So we had 4 of them. We had a chance to select the one that we want to participate in. And basically 4 weeks, last weeks of summer, all you do is just work on this huge team project. And I had a chance to participate in one which was dedicated to interstellar travel, to new types of propulsion. So like going to Mars and beyond. And we were investigating ways of like, how can we go to Mars? How actually we can shorten the time to go to Mars? What kind of...
But you haven't studied propulsion earlier. Right.
Not at all. I had no idea. We had some of the engineers in our group, and the group was actually mixed as well. So we had engineers, we had lawyers, we had medical doctors, we had journalists, biologists. So like everyone was in this, and we just had this project, which I thought at the beginning was like totally engineering. But actually, when we started to work on this and see that all the issues are connected, and then all the lectures that we had from this like 6 departments at the beginning, we can apply them to this team project. And I actually learned a lot about propulsion. I wasn't like really expecting that I will learn so much things, and also like very advanced concepts. Like one of the things that we were doing is we were investigating antimatter propulsion, like particle annihilation and all that, which is like completely not in time. It's like futuristic concept. And as part of this investigation, we had a trip organized to CERN again. So we were visiting antimatter factory when people were explaining us how all the things are working there. So this research were just also, every aspect of it was like, wow, these things exist. And this actually is something that we can like apply in the future. So if those concepts can be really applied and like a lot more people will be working on that, maybe that will be possible. And it just but at the moment when you realize that you're part of such cool thing, that maybe in the future people will like do antimatter rockets and you're like, wow, and like going to Mars in 1 week. That is something. So I was responsible for the legal part of it. For example, one of the things that I was researching is, first of all, how to do a cooperation, because if we'll do this project, that will be pretty costly. And how do we do so that all of the countries cooperate between themselves and we actually can realize it, can make it happen, because that is enormous investment. So a lot of countries actually need to be involved. And the second thing is that if we're sending, let's say, in terms of nuclear propulsion, we're sending basically nuclear material in space, and that will be basically a nuclear bomb. So, and knowing that it's prohibited to put any other weapons on the Earth orbit and like send everything like this to space, and like, oh, is this considered as a space weapon then? Or how do we approach this? So a lot of interesting issues like this were discussed, like enabling or not, they can help us enable this travel or not. So, and it was, something, especially when you were like working on a very like book concepts of like, oh, the limitation between airspace and outer space. And here you see rockets and something like completely futuristic. And you are actually realizing that this is kind of your job. That's a really nice feeling.
What is most amazing, it's how contradictory it's because people stopped building nuclear stations to produce any electricity, and we started to experiment with dark matter, which is millions times more dangerous.
Well, as far as I know, the dark matter is really not that well investigated. I mean, most of the space is composed of dark matter, but we have absolutely no knowledge of what it is. So we're just trying to discover what these things are, and we actually don't know, and we need to investigate. And for this also we need to invest money in like space exploration in the future, because we need to know from what is actually in space. So this is something that is really fascinating also about space law, because we cannot really some of the things needs to be discovered, and we really need to know how it works. So we need to have a specific amount of scientific evidence to conclude that, oh, this can be harmful, this cannot be harmful, or like if if we just like discover something that is dangerous in space, we need to protect, and we need to really think about safety for the future. What will happen if we will like put humans in this super fast rocket which will go to Mars, and maybe something there will happen that we need to protect and think about it more. So a lot of things are happening. And we're just really in this point when we just need to really discover and like be one step closer to this huge mystery, and try to understand it a little bit more.
How we could reach another solar system, another star with existing technologies. And let's imagine that we have a capital, we have budgets, we have, including international agreements. How we could realize it?
Okay, so one of those initiatives that actually I know is already existing. So it's called Breakthrough Initiatives. And they have this project called Starshot. So what is it's the plan basically to send a lot of different like tiny light sail spacecraft. And when I say spacecraft, it sounds like when you actually say spacecraft, you just imagine this is something insanely huge. But those were like cheap satellites, very small ones. And the plan was to send those, like 1,000 of those, so they can reach Alpha Centauri. And this project, like estimated to be launched in like 2036. And that is actually one of the initiatives that we have now, just to see, and basically an exploration mission. So we have those, but it's just that we also need to have enough financing and a lot of interested in this matters people, just like eager to know and like eager to explore. So I think those initiatives will pop up like more and more in the future. But like even the existence of this one is sort of incredibly inspiring, that we can just if not travel by ourselves for now, but just send something that is actually can like move to another very, very distant location in the universe. That will be a big step. So it's super interesting to explore what these guys are doing in the breakthrough initiatives. And see, that will be very interesting to see how the project evolves in the future as well. And a lot of missions like this would probably be more and more present. It's just that we need to plan them now. And so I think that like knowing that it's not really commercial, it's something that is more scientific. It's something that will not necessarily bring money, but it will mostly be for us to understand our universe and the place that we are living in. So, just hope that we will invest also in this equally that we are investing for like commercial space.
What is your thoughts on long-term projects? And because in space, in startup community, we probably mostly use short-term goals, profits. Stakeholders want more, and how we overcome?
I think that's mostly a matter of education, and because now that all the investment that is basically happening is just that those people need to be persuaded that this is something that that matters. And not necessarily like brings profits the second day after you launch the project. So you don't have your like return of investment, just like, wow, this is success. So I think that just the matter of education, and that people will be more more knowledgeable of the fact that space is something that actually needs to be understood first. And then when people are actually realizing what is the value of it, then they will be more interested of doing. I mean, space projects they were all the time really lengthy to develop, and space is dangerous anyway. So like all the things launched there, like highly chances that we will not succeed, but we're just trying over and over and over again. So in this terms, I think that we really need to be persistent. It's not something that just goes easy, that we just like invest once in the project and it works. So for the future, I think that people who will be interested in those, they will know that we are doing this not only for money, but for something more than this, for like advancing human knowledge in general. So I think this is much more valuable than just receiving profits. So the idea as you guys doing this Stargate is extremely valuable because it's just like bringing us to the next level of understanding.
Network science said that people who live in cities, in big cities, for example, San Francisco or New York, could earn 30% more than people who live in urban territories. Could we achieve more in technology and some kind of cooperation if we build science city like Disney founder imagined?
Oh, you mean like without necessarily governmental investment in the city, or?
No, governmental control.
Oh, that is super interesting. I think that actually that may happen like naturally in the future. And every city can be basically futuristic city of the future, and like obviously tautology, but like be a city with equal access to knowledge. I mean, we now have internet in our homes, so obviously not all of the world is covered yet, but that is one of the goals for the future, that we will be more connected and we will have more access to all of the information, and we'll also learn how to find this information, how to like use it, and this information will also be more and more accessible. So actually we will become like more knowledgeable people, and like we will be able to communicate with each other also faster and develop the projects like independently of where we are in the world, so we can be our digital cities. Why not? So that can be something virtual. It doesn't mean that this like the community of people that are interested in like technology and space should be in one specific place and like big cities only and not accessible to anyone. If like for the future we will like even be more and more connected, we can just like gather online and discussing all of the things online, and you don't necessarily need a physical location to do this, and online it's even easier. So one of the examples of this international cooperation was recently in ISU when I was working as a capsule communicator. So that was Interactive Space Program, and since we were in confinement, everyone was just in different parts in the world, and we were communicating remotely, but we still, those people still managed, participants, crew members as we call them, still managed to communicate between themselves and create an awesome project. The topic of it, by the way, was space and pandemics. So that is like one of the first steps to the future. So we don't really necessarily like use a lot of different resources to build something that just like advances humanity. We can communicate from our homes basically and do amazing stuff, even though we are just like sitting in our rooms. So that might be something that we might consider in the future. And who knows, like what kind of technology that will be. Maybe this virtual reality will advance to the point when we can wear our glasses and this city will appear in front of our eyes, and we can see other people, even though like in their holograms or whatever, even though they are located in different parts of the world. So that can be this. It's just a matter of time, because for now we're not really equally having this access to all of the resources. We're not having internet everywhere, so it's mostly the issue of connectivity for now. That obviously big cities, as they have like all the companies and everything, is the infrastructure is more and more developed, and they have like super fast internet. It's like 5G is coming to Paris very soon, stuff like this. But the really interesting change will happen when everyone will have a chance to be connected, and that'll be something really, really cool.
We are running out of time. Maybe some last words for our listeners. What kind of experience you gained in France?
Okay, thanks. Actually, that was a lot of experience. Starting from the point when I was just learning how to communicate and using different language. So I've learned French at school, and when I just arrived in France, I was like, oh, I think I forgot how to talk. So that is actually pretty important, because you think that you actually know things, and you are maybe even pretty confident, but when you start to actually be in the environment, you really understand it. You know nothing. It's like you know nothing. Jon Snow. So one of the lessons was actually communication, because all the people actually they're quite different. They have different. They're culturally different, and one of the biggest lessons was to learn how to communicate with people from different backgrounds, from different countries, with different age as well. So that was actually one of the most valuable things that I learned, not only in France but in Finland, and then in the Space University, is just the skill of understanding how other people work, and the moment when you understand that, like, not all the people are like you. So you need to approach them sometimes differently, and you need to also be culturally aware that, like, for example, if you're talking with the person from a specific country, it's not really pleasant to do these things because it's like culturally not really good. So it actually, you learn how to be part of the society, and without like saying something that might hurt the other person just because you don't know. So you start to learn how international, what actually the word international means. Because in Ukraine, that was kind of hard to explore, because all the people, they were more or less Ukrainians everywhere. We didn't have a lot of foreigners. But here, everyone is from different country doing different things. So super interesting to see and to communicate with those. And also, how to be open, and how to not fear expressing your opinions, and that this is a part of learning, sort of, that you don't need to fear to ask questions. If you would like to ask them, that you need to be like open, and actually you like more open-minded as well, because you learn so much different things. And in terms of skills, like languages as well, when you are pretty confident and you know the language, and then you're like, well, I didn't know English. I know French. I knew French before, and I had like my English was like exceptionally not good. And this is one of the reasons why I actually decided to go to Finland, because I realized that my English is not so good. So, you learn languages. And also, I mean, because Strasbourg is a really nice city in the border between France and Germany, I'm like, wow, that's my golden time to learn German. And guess what? I started to learn German. I'm doing it for like 2 or 3 years now. So things that I would never think that I will do in my life, I'm doing it just because life happens. And you need to learn every day. So those were like most memorable skills that France and like international education taught me.
Thank you so much that you keep in your interests, because I'm sure that only individuals who is passionate about their insanely difficult, insanely maybe unachievable goals, they achieve something. That was an amazing conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. And that was amazing to hear all of your questions. That was a nice time. Thank you so much for inviting me again.